I will have the screen or share when Yevgen, you will be talking initially, right? And then just hand over to
And
me.
you will
Okay.
continue, so we don't
Perfect.
switch between. Okay. Hi, everyone. Good day. Доброго дня. Сьогодні у нас івент Lean Coffee. Сесія посвячена Azure DevOps Best Practices. Цього разу поспілкуємося про AI in DevOps. Загалом у нас є 2 спікери сьогодні. Поговоримо про Release Pipelines і AI Improved Monitoring в Azure. Next slide, please, Roshan. We have 2 speakers. One is Roshan, our lead system engineer. He is a Microsoft Azure expert, has a couple of certificates in Azure related to fundamentals, related to administrator, has experience as team lead, has experience in DevOps, and would start today's presentation. And у нас сьогодні є Олександр Костенко, він Senior Systems Engineer, він буде спілкуватися українською. Він також сертифікований адміністратор з Azure. У нього є багато експертизи з Microsoft Azure, по саппорту, інфраструктурі, database configuration maintenance, cloud security, posture management і, а вже ж, контейнери та оркестрація. Тому ми починаємо сьогоднішній івент. Roshan, please start with your presentation. You're on mute, Roshan.
Hi, can you hear me? Hi. Thank you, Yevgen, for the introductions. As Yevgen mentioned, my name is Roshan, and I will be going through the first topic of this presentation. The agenda is as mentioned here, and I will also include some sample Copilot prompts that I have prepared to show the audience. So let me go right into the first point of the agenda, which is what is GitHub Copilot. GitHub Copilot is a AI-powered coding assistant developed by GitHub and OpenAI. It is essentially a service that uses OpenAI Codex model, which has been trained on billions of lines of code from the GitHub public repositories and other sources of information from the internet. Copilot also understands natural language, so it has LLM capabilities. So how do you work with Copilot? It basically comes as an integrated extension into popular development environments like Visual Studio Code, JetBrains IDE, and others. This allows the extension to provide coding suggestions and context-specific data. An important point to note about GitHub Copilot is that it basically relies on feedback from the user. So the moment GitHub Copilot provides you with some suggested code, it is now up onto the user to review and then suggest improvements based on which Copilot will take into consideration those improved suggestions and provide new set of code and pipelines. So essentially, it is learning through feedback. Moving on, I just wanted to talk about the Copilot process. So here we can see to our left is the OpenAI Codex model. In the center lies the GitHub Copilot service. And to the right, you have the various IDE extensions. And as I mentioned in the previous slide, the IDE provides context data along with prompts. GitHub Copilot then provides a suggested code, which is perhaps reviewed by the user, and then the user suggests some improvements, and the process simply continues in this manner. Going forward, let's talk specifically about DevOps and what would be the role of GitHub Copilot in the DevOps context. So GitHub Copilot can act as a DevOps assistant. When it comes to continuous integration, GitHub Copilot can be used to auto-generate DevOps pipelines based on certain prompts, and we'll see some examples of that. So it could be, it could generate pretty mature CI pipelines for us. Within the context of continuous delivery or continuous deployment, Copilot can be used to create deployment workflow jobs, as well as infrastructure code. It understands multiple languages, so it can develop this code in Terraform, in Ansible, in very cloud-specific languages like ARM or Bicep. What is very important within this entire process, as mentioned earlier as well, is that the DevOps engineer must provide appropriate prompts and context. And based on this context, it is that the Copilot will provide us with adequate results. So to go forward, here's what I was talking about. We have a couple of example prompts that I would like to go through with the audience. So I'm going to have to shift to Visual Studio Code. Let me do that right now. This is going to be a short disruption, but yeah, please bear with me. So I believe I'm sharing my screen now, and I believe everyone can see my Visual Studio Code editor.
Not
so
yet.
not yet.
Not yet.
Okay, that is a bit strange. What about now? No. Okay, let me retry that. Operation. Okay, entire screen. What about now? Can you see my screen? It is telling me that
Yes.
it is sharing.
It's working.
Visible,
Yes.
visible.
Okay,
Perfect.
great. So you can see my Visual Studio code editor, I believe. All right. So guys, here I have a solution opened up in the left-hand corner within the workspace. It is essentially a .NET API solution. And me as a DevOps engineer needs to perform a certain set of tasks. So the first thing I want to do is I want to develop a CI build pipeline. And lucky for me, I have a Docker file available to me. So I'm going to go through a prompt that I have created. I have pre-created all of these due to time constraints, but basically I have provided a prompt to Copilot to go ahead and give me a CI build file. And as you can see, Copilot has read through the Docker file and has also detected a CS proj file based on what it read within the Docker file, and has gone ahead and created a docker build.yaml file for me. So I basically asked for GitHub Actions workflow, and Copilot has generated it based on the context that I have provided. The jobs can basically be divided into two parts, the build job and the test job, and Copilot provides me some details about the usage. So I can go into the build file and I can see that it has generated this file for me. Now, next, as a DevOps engineer, I want to also introduce some static code analysis into this workflow. So I'm going to select the workflow file, and I'm going to ask Copilot to provide me with some static code analysis. And as you can see, Copilot has read through some of the related projects files. It has identified that this is a .NET project. And based on this fact, Copilot then goes ahead and tries to generate some .NET specific static code analysis jobs. And this is finally added into the workflow file, and once I have reviewed it, it will go ahead and I can go ahead and accept that those changes. So at this point, I have done some amount of work on the CI build process, and I want to shift focus a bit to the infrastructure and deployment pieces. So the next prompt that I have for Copilot is regarding provision of some sort of Terraform code. I have decided that since this is an API application, I would like to provision an Azure container app instance and deploy this application within the container app instance. So my prompt is very much to the point. It is very much context driven, and it says, and it asks Copilot to essentially build some code for me. And what Copilot has done, it has actually generated the Terraform folder and has created a set of standard Terraform files, the main file, the output file, variables. It has also generated a README, which describes how I can utilize this repository to provision my code. So all the details are provided. Once again, very important for us to understand that as DevOps engineers, we have to review all of this before we accept the changes. And it's only once we review, we go ahead and click accept, and the changes are available within our repository. Moving forward, now that I have the container app instance, I want to include that as a job, as a deployment job within my workflow. So I'm going to shift once again to the GitHub Actions workflow file, and I'm going to ask Copilot to create a deployment job for me that deploys the Docker image that is built within this workflow as a container within the container app instance. And so once again, Copilot has the context information. It reads through the current jobs, and then it will decide to add extra details into. So it has created a deployment job, as you guys can see here, and I will have to review it. And essentially, if it fits the bill, I will go ahead and accept this change. So at this point, I have added the pieces for deployment. So the last thing I would like to do here is I would like to add some infrastructure services that can be used to direct the traffic to the application that I have been working on and I've been provisioning. As I have decided to go with the Azure API management instance because it is a popular service that can be used in Azure to aggregate APIs. And so my prompt again is very direct, and I have to shift focus to obviously the Terraform main file here, and I provide Copilot with a prompt to include API management instance provisioning within this Terraform repository. So Copilot is going to go ahead and analyze my files, and since it has all the context information as well, it is going to make the required changes, and it is in fact also going to add the container app instance as a backend API into the API management instance. This is basically a couple of examples that I wanted to go through with the audience on how one can utilize the Copilot within the context of a certain IDE with the Copilot extension. So let me now stop and go back to the main slide. Please bear with me here. Right. I believe everyone can see the slide again.
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, interesting. Maybe I should do that again. So last time I actually had to do it twice. So let me do it again, and
It
maybe
worked seconds
that
ago.
will. Okay. Okay. Let me do this again then. Okay, please let me know once you can see the slide.
Uploading. Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, great. So we went through all of these examples as I've shown in the Visual Studio Code Editor, so we can move on. The next topic I would like to talk about is we've looked at how one can use GitHub Copilot, to provide prompts and to work with it within an IDE. Now, I would like to talk a little bit about agentic workflows. Agentic workflows are essentially AI-driven processes where an AI agent performs certain actions independently or with minimal human intervention and review. So, to make this a little more interesting, I want to provide a industry scenario. Let's say we have a customer within the fintech industry, a highly regulated industry, that wants to build an agentic workflow that provisions infrastructure based on certain triggers or events. A typical example would be an ITSM portal request for new infrastructure. The customer wants the agentic workflow to use the customer's code repositories with IAC code as context and reference information when building new code. Why does the customer want that? The simple reason is that these repositories contain code that are compliant with the customer's fintech regulations and contains approved design patterns and standards in infrastructure as code. The customer does not want to spend resources on building a custom model because this is beyond budget and maybe an overkill in this current context. Finally, the customer wants human review and approval before the generated code is executed and infrastructure is provisioned accordingly. Okay, so this is the scenario. Let's talk a little bit about solution. Core components of the solution, in my view, would be RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation. It is a technique that allows LLMs to receive external and context-specific information. This allows the LLMs to respond to requests by referencing this information and providing a very customer-centric solution. The second part is an OpenAI API. I think we all know what APIs are. In the context of OpenAI, it's basically a API service that allows for programmatic way of sending requests to LLM with all the appropriate prompt and contextual information. And thus, it can be used in any number of agentic workflows to generate code or to generate pipelines. Okay, moving forward, let's talk a little bit more, some more details regarding the solution. Let's talk about the building blocks of the solution's design. So these are the building blocks. I will go through them. Data extraction, basically parsing of the repositories that follow the coding standards, the patterns, and extracting metadata and content into a structured temporary storage for processing. The second one would be semantic indexing, basically generating embeddings from the extracted content and storing them within the Azure Cognitive Search for context-rich retrieval. Embeddings is a process by which we convert data, which is textual data basically, into hexadecimal vectors. The reason we are doing this is because machines and AI, for example, understand vectors, hexadecimal vectors, much better than they understand textual data. So By performing this embedding process, we are basically allowing for very context-rich retrieval when an AI agent performs a search. The next is the agentic deployment. Basically, any kind of event or trigger, as we talked about before, that starts the process, and the agent in question performs a cognitive search, retrieves adequate information and context, and then generates a prompt for the LLM. Finally, we have generate and execute pipelines. The LLM will use this prompt with the context information to generate some deployment pipelines, some code perhaps, and this will pass through a quality gate. The quality gate in our case, since the customer wants human review, will be essentially a human reviewing the code that has been generated, approving it, and then allowing for execution. Moving on. So this is a visual representation of the solutions architecture. Everything that we just talked about in the previous slide. As you can see in the top, the data extraction process, which includes the data sources and an orchestration process that converts that data into indexes that can be stored in cognitive search. The orchestration process is making use of a couple of Azure native services like function apps, queues, as well as Azure Bash for parallel processing of large repositories, for example. At the bottom is the actual agentic workflow and a trigger. The trigger here is a chatbot. It could also be an API backend. There can be a number of triggers. The agentic workflow is an agent that performs a search on the cognitive search index, gets the relevant contextual data, and then generates a prompt that can be supplied to an LLM. The LLM will generate output, which is then has to be reviewed through a quality gate by a human reviewer. Once it is done and reviewed, the pipeline can be executed. Okay, going forward, so this is basically the conclusion of my part of the presentation. There are 5 points that I would like to talk about. The first one is that GitHub Copilot is an excellent tool when it comes to DevOps. It's a perfect assistant. But remember, you must provide the appropriate prompts and the adequate context information. So that's point number 2. The point number 3 is that ultimately you as the DevOps engineer are the pilot in command, so as to say. So it is you who makes all the decisions. You are the one with the deep understanding of the requirement and the problem that needs to be solved. Number 4 is that agentic workflows that utilize a combination of RAG and LLM capabilities could be a game changer in the field of DevOps automation. And number 5 is, with the rise of these agentic workflows, the role of DevOps engineers shifts to more strategic problem solving, like security, for example, or the architecture, or the infrastructure as code system design patterns, or maybe even the building of agentic workflows. So with that, I have concluded with my part. Thank you for listening. I would like to hand back now to Yevgen and continue. Thank you for their time.
Thank you. Thank you for presentation. Alexander, may you try to share it, because for me, it doesn't display.
Let me try.
Okay. If you're facing problems, I can again reshare my screen.
Yeah,
Please continue.
Okay.
You
All
should
right.
let me.
Okay. All right. That was unnecessary.
5:14. Sorry for the
Okay.
technical issues.
No problems. Can you all see my screen, please? Please confirm.
let's wait a couple of seconds.
Couple of seconds. Yes.
It's YouTube. Yes,
Visible.
Yes.
Alexander.
Great.
yes, it's
Yeah.
uploading. Okay. Hello, everyone. Мене звати Олександр. Сьогодні ми з вами трохи порозмовляємо про Azure AI, про моніторинг, insights і як це можна використати. Наступний слайд, please. Next slide, please. Okay,
Sure.
thanks. Azure моніторинг – це комплексне рішення для моніторингу, яке дозволяє збирати, аналізувати та реагувати на дані моніторингу з ваших хмарних або локальних середовищ. Azure Monitor може збирати дані з кожного рівня та компонента вашої системи, навіть в кількох підписках Azure або інших виробників. Він зберігає їх на спільній платформі даних для використання спільним набором інструментів, які можуть співвідносити, аналізувати, візуалізувати та або реагувати на дані. Він може моніторити наступні ресурси. Це Azure Application, віртуал машини, Guest Operation System, контейнери, including Prometheus metrics, databases, security events in combination with Azure Sentinel, networking events and health in combination with Network Watcher, custom sources that uses the IP to get data into Azure Monitor, та багато іншого. Next slide, please. Так, секунду. На цьому слайді можна побачити сервіси та компоненти, які знаходяться які задіяні в процесі. Та з чим можна інтегрувати все. Звісно, це не всі ресурси, не всі спроможності, але, в принципі, можна побачити поверхново, як це працює і що для цього потрібно. Next slide, please. Для прикладу візьмемо наш Kubernetes, Azure Kubernetes. Це може бути досить велика та складна структура, яку треба весь час тримати під наглядом, і особливо, коли це у проді. Він має багато компонентів, такі як поди, контейнери, сервіси, інгреси, і все це має свої логи, які можна переглянути в Azure Portal, в Insights, моніторингу або де-інде. Багато ресурсів є. У випадках, коли щось йде не так, нам треба перебрати багато логів, щоб знайти щось потрібне. Але це час, який ми можемо використати на щось більш корисне. На сьогоднішній день, користуючись Azure-сервісами, ми здатні набагато швидше знайти потрібне і полагодити нашу систему. Next slide, please. Thanks. Перед тим, як почати працювати з логами, нам потрібно зробити Log Analytics Workspace, де будуть збирати всі наші потрібні нам логи. Також нам треба буде встановити Azure Monitor для контейнерів. Це дуже легко зробити з Web UI Azure. Azure Monitoring for Containers може збирати не тільки логи, а й CPU, memory та інші метрики, які мають наші ресурси. Next, please. Перед тим, як почати працювати з логами, нам потрібно зробити Log Analytics Workspace. Це було, sorry. Далі нам треба підняти в Azure A-сервіс для аналізу тексту. Шукати потрібно щось на кшталт Cognitive Services або Language Services. На жаль, на даний час сказати неможливо, бо Azure дуже швидко розвиває і міняє свої сервіси. І на даний час це може бути одна назва і один комплект сервісів, а через якийсь час це може бути щось інше. От на цю хвилину, якщо можна так сказати, це все має назву Language Services. Після вибору в Azure Language Services нам треба вибрати Text Analysis. В принципі, ми бачимо на слайді Create and then Text Analysis. Next slide, please. Після того, як ми задеплоїли, нам потрібні будуть такі дані, як де у нас це? API, key and endpoint URL. Стосовно до нас. В інших випадках, можливо, вам знадобиться щось інше, але ми сьогодні йдемо по цим шляхом. Next slide, please. Для того, щоб наш AI-сервіс нам допоміг, нам треба дістати логи. Це можливо зробити через Web UI, наприклад, зайти і скачати ці логи. Це можна зробити через консоль kubectl або іншим шляхом, який ви можете реалізувати, в принципі. Для мене найбільш, напевно, простий і швидкий, і той, що можна обробляти, це через консоль, через kubectl. Швидко, зручно і можна швидко редагувати командами. Отже, так, yes. Next slide, please. Здається, все приготували. Тепер можна відправляти запроси. Готуємо запрос. На слайді можна... Ні, sorry. Так, можна слайд before, please. Maybe I missed it. Yes, окей. Тепер можна відправляти запроси. Готуємо запрос. Вставляємо логи в body, відправляємо. Можливо, в принципі, є сенс, це дивлячись по ситуації, трошки підфільтрувати логи, щось видавити не потрібне. В принципі, це дуже швидко, як правило, дуже легко робиться. В моєму випадку я це часто роблю через консоль. В принципі, пару команд, і у вас логи якби очищені і підготовані. Добре. Да, це приклади команд, які у нас, ви бачите на слайді, які можна відправляти для логів. Next slide, please. Для Text Analysis ми можемо використовувати наступні варіанти. Це REST API, Azure Logic Apps for Low-Code Approach, or that's all. В нашому випадку ми будемо використовувати REST API. На даний час і в цьому випадку це найбільш простий, швидкий і дешевий, що дуже важливо, спосіб використання функцій AI. Next slide, please, Russia. Так, ось ми бачимо слайд, де ми будемо використовувати наш endpoint, про який я казав раніше, і APK. Звичайно, тут it's example, тому yes, you will need add your case. В боді ми вставляємо логи, які нам треба буде фільтрувати. Так. Next slide, please, Russia. Окей, відправив логи. Ми отримуємо відповідь після відправки у форматі JSON. В нашому випадку ми використовували key phrases. Він шукає і показує, чому причина проблеми. Це ми можемо побачити на цьому прикладі. Як ми бачимо, key phrases, memory overload, pod. В принципі, це показує, що проблема на поді, проблема з пам'яттю. Можливо, вам треба додати пам'яті або, як варіант, зробити ще одну репліку вашої поди. Next slide, please. Окрім key phrases, ми ще маємо пачку різних варіантів, які можемо використовувати для різних цілей. В нашому випадку ми використовували key phrases для того, щоб знайти проблему, чому, наприклад, пода наша падає, або якась проблема на ній. В принципі, це дуже може зекономити вам час. Але, для прикладу, ви можете використовувати і інші варіанти. Language detection. Хто знає, може вам потрібно знайти, які язики використовуються в логах. В принципі, список ви можете побачити на екрані. Можливий варіант навіть з Personal Identifying Information, P2 Detection. Наприклад, до вас прийшов, не знаю, кастомер або ваш project manager і питає, чи нема у наших логах якихось P2 даних, які ми не можемо шарити, використовувати, вони потрібні, заховані. І ви завдяки ось цій фічі можете це перевірити доволі швидко. Не треба буде перебирати всі логи, це дійсно може зекономити дуже багато часу. Це принципове для нас. Next slide, please. Окей. Окей, це ціна. Ціна залежить від рекордсів. Кожен рекорд – це 1000 символів, включно із точки, крапки, тіре та все інше. Для прикладу, FreeWeb ми можемо побачити 5000 text records. Це може бути доволі багато, але все залежить від того, як його використовувати. Next slide, please. Набагато цікавіший варіант наступний – стандарт SWeb. Тут ми можемо побачити, що наприклад, для наших key phrases фічі це 500 000 text records за 75 центів. Звісно, це можна використати все за годину, за 10 хвилин. Це залежить дуже від вашого проєкту, від того, скільки ви будете, як активно це використовувати. Але це вже досить непогано, я вважаю. Next slide, please. Що можна сказати про це? В принципі, це, якщо на вашому проєкті це вже є, а на даний час дуже багато проєктів, і їх стає все більше, починають використовувати AI. І ось, якщо на вашому проєкті вже є ці ресурси AI, ви можете використовувати їх, і ви не будете піднімати нові сервіси, це нові кошти, це нові задачі, це час, який треба на це використати. Якщо у вас ця інфраструктура вже є, ви, в принципі, дуже легко, як ми пройшлись по нашим степам, можете це використовувати, це може дуже пришвидшити вашу роботу. Ми розглянули варіант, який ручний мануал, скажімо так, використання, коли щось трапилось, ви взяли, пішли, перевірили, ага, окей, я знайшов, оп, клац, показали результат. Ось, в принципі, можна все це автоматизувати. Але це вже інша історія. В нашому випадку це за мінімум коштів отримати максимальну віддачу і зекономити багато часу, який ми можемо використати на інші задачі. Дякую. Дякую, Рошан.
Thank you.
Thank you both for your presentations. Unfortunately, I don't see any questions in the chat. But if there are any questions, please put there. We would glad to answer it.
Should I stop sharing?
Indeed. Looks like no questions. Still, we would check the messages in the recording. It would be available on EPAM Ukraine Careers YouTube channel. So please check if you hadn't chance to join from the beginning or we have a question. And from EPAM Ukraine. So yeah. Всім дякую за ваш час. Дякую вам за вашу презентацію і гарного дня.
Дякую.
Thank you.